options for. Mark, what led you to write this book?
Well, I'd written it about 10, 15 years ago, and I had problems finding an editor, and I always thought of an excuse not to publish it. But what I really wanted to do is for people like me and people who are cancer survivors that have survived the disease, but now they're looking for something else to make a living, they're looking for something else to contribute to society and help others. I wanted to help other people who feel hopeless. There's, when you hear the word cancer, you think, your hope is over. You think of all these things that could happen to you, and mostly you think of like the unknown. I think that's what always kind of scares people is, with a lot of things in life you can understand what the meaning is. With cancer you don't know, and I certainly had no idea what I was in for. If I did, perhaps I would have said, you know what, I can't go through with this. But with all these things I experienced through, as we talked about with transplant and everything, the hope I always had in surviving was a big part of what kept me alive, and my belief in God and my belief that I would be able to use my story and my testimony to give others something to look at and say, hey, he made it through. I can do this too. It's not, you never know when you're dealing with cancer what you're going to face, and it's really easy to say to somebody, suck it up and deal with it. But a lot of times you need a kick in the pants in order to get yourself emotionally ready and physically ready to deal with the things that you're going to deal with. I had a lot of support with my mom and my uncle, family members that were there to support me, and I have my background, being a Christian and believer in Christ. That definitely helped me with a lot of things. But I wanted to be able to use my life as something that other people could look at and say, hey, you know what, this person made it through, I can make it through. And if they read my book, there's a lot of times that it starts off where I give a brief background of myself and that I was an athlete. So if people are looking to identify with something about what my high school life was like, I was like any other teenager. And then this happened, and now your whole life is turned upside down. And that's one thing people deal with too. Is there's so many different things that get thrown at them. They have no idea what any of this means. All these medical terminologies, you can be just so overwhelmed. And that's part of, hey, you know what, you're not alone. Don't be afraid of that. There's a way, just kind of take a deep breath and kind of take everything. And as you go along, you'll be able to fight what is coming. I think all of us, people ask me, how did you deal with it? Or must have taken a lot of strength. I'm not a hero. I'm not special. If I knew, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it. But when you are faced with circumstances and you have no choice and you have to stand up and fight, you do. And that's what I did. And I think other people, when they're faced with, this could kill me or I'm going to die, the survival instinct kind of takes over. And, knowing that's there, sometimes if you can see what you're going to deal with, you might not, because I'm basically a coward I hate going to the doctor. I hate dealing with a lot of that stuff, So when you're faced with something like this, if you know what's coming, maybe you wouldn't say, well, I can't deal with that. But as you prepare for it and things kind of happen to you, you get I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And that's what, when you read each chapter, I think you say, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And, oh geez, I can't believe that this happened. But then, you know kind of what the end is going to be. There's another chapter in there that I think people really are going to enjoy is my mom wrote a chapter on what a parent goes through.
Really?
Because that's something too. I think parents, when they see their kids suffering, and that's something that I'm not a parent, so I can't understand that. But people who do have kids, probably the worst thing on earth is to watch their child suffer. And my mom saw me suffering, and she saw all these other kids dying, and she was comforting all these other mothers and all these families that are, why did this happen to my son? Why did this happen to my daughter? How am I going to deal with this? And my mom kept waiting for her time to come. And, with her belief in God, she kept, God, if my son's going to keep suffering like this, just take him. She was prepared for it, but yet at the other side, of course, she prepared for it, meaning that, if this was going to happen, just, make it go quick and not have him suffer anymore. But if he's going to survive, give him the will and strength, and give me the ability to handle that too. And so that chapter itself, I think when a parent reads it, it's really going to be like, oh my God. And it's going to give them a little bit of hope for any obstacles they're facing in life, and especially if their son or daughter is dealing with a sickness that they are worried about.
Yeah, that is very, very touching, and thank you for your compassion, and thank you for writing the book. I would have never known that you were a coward. I mean, you are absolutely a hero to me, and you've got 9 lives, I'm telling you. You're very strong and you're very resilient.
Well,
so.
thank you. And I think like in moving forward, we talked about that before. Okay, I have a blog that I do twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays, trying to connect with. There's so many groups out there now. If you go on Facebook and like we talked about, I'm not a social media person at all, so this is all kind of new to me. I try to connect with them as much as I can of what they can identify with. And Living as a Cancer Survivor is the name of my blog, and it's on my website. And it basically deals with, okay, you're going to deal with depression. You're going to deal with feeling days that you just don't want to get up in the morning. You're going to deal with, how important it is to keep a positive frame of mind. How you need to look for better ways to eat, ways to heal the damage that's been done, especially to your kidneys and your liver. There isn't anything that I haven't been through, and it's basically me just talking about it and giving my my understanding of what my experience was and kind of what to look out for, and reassuring people too. It's that, you know what, you're not alone in this. Because there's a lot of people that feel, when you go on some of these groups, these cancer survivor groups, or even on, people that are just been diagnosed, what am I going to do? What is this like? I got to go for treatment. And a lot of times they just need someone to say, hey, you know what, I understand. I feel so bad. I'm here for you. If you need someone to just cry, rant, scream, whatever, do it. There is no right reaction. I don't want, and I think, too, people think, oh, I have to handle it a certain way. You don't. Everybody's different. Also having, faith and a belief in God. Do you mind if I ask what or who was your inspiration, to accept Christ and God in your life? Well, my mom, she was a strong believer, and her faith has always been inspiring to me. Through that, rest of my family became saved. I became saved at 12 years old. I went to a Christian school. I went to a Christian college. So it's always been part of my life, okay? But, I don't want to just say, okay, well, for those only who believe in God, because there's a lot of people that don't. And, for them, they have to find the thing that motivates them and that they find their identity in. And if it's not God, it's got to be, whether it's a family member or a goal in life or something to put that in. For me, that's what I know it is. But you got to be careful. Today's society, not everybody shares that point of view. So I don't want to come across as, well, this can only work for these types of people. There's a lot of things, and even if they don't believe now, you never know how the experience might. God can use so many things that you think are horrible things that can turn around, and in the end you say, well, geez, if that didn't happen, then this would have never happened, and it wouldn't have led to me really being able to discover myself in a whole different way, and discover my strengths and my weaknesses, and the fact that I have all these things to give, and I have all these abilities that I didn't know I have through this. One thing I really wanted to do now is when I talk about people that are survivors that cannot work anymore. This was a way to kickstart that. I'm good at public speaking. I love public speaking. I love being able to connect with an audience, being able to identify with them and read them and be able to share my story with them, but also let them know different aspects of my treatment and of things that are going on today, how they can relate to me. That's one thing that I hope to really hope takes off from this. Now, how that's going to happen, I hope it's a lot easier than, because it can be a very competitive environment. But a lot of people say, hey, you have the story to do it. But, you get to a point where, okay, yeah, my story's, I'm glad you like my story, but I need to be also provide for myself, and I don't want to be a victim anymore. I don't want to be someone who takes anymore. I want to be able to give. not only you know, to people in need, but also to, you know, have a family or to have, you know, in a relationship. You want to make sure you can bring something to the table. And this is one way I know I definitely can give back. And as a talent, I have. It's like I have a talent in sports. I would still be open to doing anything in sports. But we're all limited with our time and with our, you know, some days we get up and we just can't do certain things. So the consistency of it makes us have to rely on not being able to work for anyone, because that can be really hard to understand. So we need to kind of be our own boss. And being a public speaker is something that I would love to do. I love to do it now. And I hope through this I can get a lot more appearances with people and companies or sports teams or churches, youth groups, you know, hospitals. I think hospitals would be able to benefit from it.
I'm sure you will. I mean, you're a warm, open-hearted person. And by the way, if you'd like to contact Mark for public speaking or just, you know, to ask a question, his contact information is in the book, as well as we will be providing, you know, your contact information on the closing credits of the show.
I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Twitter at CK Magic Sports on Twitter. On Facebook, you can find me under my name. You can also find me when you go to my website under Living as a Cancer Survivor. And also, I have a group on Facebook called Cancer Survivors Permanently Affected by Treatment.
Yes, I'm familiar with that, yes. And so Mark Everett Kelly. Okay. And you've got the blog. So
yep,
yes.
the Living as a Cancer Survivor, yep.
Okay. Well, I would like to thank you so much for coming on the show. Definitely very inspiring, invaluable information that I believe will help a lot of people, not just cancer patients and survivors, but really anyone on their journey toward healing. So I'm Lisa Harris. I'm a long-term MS patient, and I developed the show, you know, as a means of, you know, helping each other, you know, entrepreneurs, patients, professionals, experts who are, you know, happy to come on the show and share very useful information that we can all benefit from. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Health and Wealth with Lisa Harris. So long.